You're listening to RazorCast, USA's hottest podcast, bringing you cutting-edge interviews from leading industry professionals.
Hello, everyone. This is Liz Harvey coming to you from our studios in New York City, where we are dedicated to bringing you cutting-edge interviews from many of the leading industry professionals across the U.S. In today's episode, we are speaking with Stephanie Heintzeler. Stephanie is a German-educated midwife, a U.S.-educated doula, an acupuncturist, and she is a certified lactation counselor. She is also known as the New York Doula. Stephanie has delivered over 1,200 babies and has experience with twins, triplets, breech babies, and water births. She also works with newborn parents in their postpartum stage and holds classes and seminars for moms and dads-to-be. With a wealth of experience and knowledge in her field, Stephanie Heintzeler is widely considered to be one of the top doulas in the country. She is also a contributing member of our National Network of Industry Professionals. Today, we're going to talk about a very important topic, births after C-section. Hello, Stephanie. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And if I can jump right in, the acronym VBAC stands for vaginal birth after C-section. Are there risks for a woman choosing a vaginal birth after having a C-section?
Yes, there are risks. It kind of depends on why the first C-section happens. Sometimes risks are lower, sometimes risks are higher. The main risk is a so-called uterine rupture, but American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, which is the big organization in the United States, they name this uterine rupture in a vaginal delivery after a C-section is 0.2 to 1.5%. So the chance is about 1 over 5,000, which is very, very low. So generally, the American Association, they still recommend to try a VBAC and go for a VBAC if you had a C-section the first time.
Okay, and what leads to a successful vaginal birth after a C-section?
So it really depends on the mother, what the mother wants, because one thing is recommendation and what's, better for the child and mostly better for the mother, which would be vaginal birth. But if a mother doesn't want vaginal birth, then clearly, no one should get pushed to do something that she doesn't want to do. But most moms want a vaginal birth after C-section because they didn't want a C-section in the first place. So the most important thing is that you find a good obstetrician or midwife who supports VBACs, because some doctors say, yes, we're going to do that, but then they never really have done it, or they find for the very first issue that's happening during labor, and then they're like, okay, now we can't do it anymore. So that's the main thing. And the other thing is that it's a few things are important in terms of the pregnancy. So this original reason for the cesarean delivery the first time should not be repeated with this pregnancy now. The baby should be head down. The baby should be in a normal size. It shouldn't be multiples, like no twins. The mother should not have diabetes, no high blood pressure. So, if you have a normal pregnancy, there's no reason to not have vaginal birth.
And when would you recommend that someone not try a VBAC?
So if the original reason for the first cesarean delivery is repeated, let's say I'm having twins again, or I'm having a breech baby again, or I'm having really high blood pressure, and it is dangerous to plan for a vaginal birth, things like that. But there's a few other reasons. For example, the mother should not have any additional uterine scars, like she should not have had any other surgeries besides that one C-section. She should deliver in a bigger hospital. If she's living in the country and she's planning on a home birth, that would not be ideal. Rather go to a hospital where, just in case a C-section is necessary, you can have it. And the other thing is really don't try a VBAC if you're not getting support. If you don't have a doula, if your partner is not on the same page with you, if your OB, your doctor or midwife, they're not on the same page with you, then you'd rather get disappointed. So in that case, discuss that beforehand and then make your decision.
All right, great. And does having more than one C-section pose additional risks for future pregnancies?
Yeah, so let's say if you had two C-sections, risks are getting higher, for example, for lower back issues. From physical therapists, I often hear that mothers who've had one or two C-sections or even more C-sections, they often have disc herniations because during the C-section, everything gets cut in the front, the belly and the muscles and the uterus. So then you have your newborn and you keep carrying your newborn. At the same time, your abs are not really doing anything, so all the pressure goes on your back. And of course, the more kids you have, and the less strength you have because of all these C-sections, the more risks is that your lower back goes out. The other risks are longer recovery in general. There is a low number of risks during the third pregnancy if you've had two C-sections because the placenta might attach to the scar tissue because the scar tissue is bigger and thicker. And if your placenta attaches to that scar tissue the third time, it can cause bleeding during the pregnancy or during another C-section. So the more C-sections, the riskier the following pregnancies are.
Mm-hmm. And how do you plan for a VBAC? Do contingency plans need to also be in place for a C-section?
Yeah, with VBAC mothers, I have a lot of VBAC mothers, and so far, so good, knock on wood, we've always had a successful VBAC, but sometimes babies decide to be in a funky position, so then early on it's decided to do a C-section. So mothers really need to plan for both kind of births because chances are maybe during that labor she might end up in a C-section, but if there's no reason, the obstetrician or midwife, if they're supportive, usually another C-section is not necessary. So you plan for VBAC by really aiming for the vaginal birth, making a birth plan for your vaginal birth, hire a doula, because with a doula you lower your C-section rate by 40% because you really are aware of all kinds of risks that you have, and also you have a better chance of having the birth that you want in terms of maybe less medication, good positioning, staying at home a long time so you're relaxed. And if you're relaxed, you generally have less pain, you need less interventions. And if you have less interventions, chances are you're going to have the vaginal birth because with interventions we kick up the rate for C-section. But at the same time, it's important to look at the fact that, of course, it might end up in a C-section. So we would look at why did the first C-section happen and how was that for the mother, like emotionally, seeing what helped her, what didn't help, and really make a plan so that if suddenly a C-section is necessary, whether it's suddenly planned or during labor, that we really know what made her feel comfortable the last time. Some moms got nauseous the first time. Some moms really panicked because they couldn't breathe so well during the C-section, or they were really, really achy after birth, or they didn't have support in place after birth because, of course, with a C-section, you can't really take care of your children. And now, of course, you have children because you're having the VBAC or planned VBAC, so
right.
you already have a child. So, and that way, you really want to make sure that you have everything in place for both kind of births. Most of the time, the VBAC is successful because every doctor midwife rules out anyone who might be at a higher risk, but it's important to plan both ways.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much, Stephanie. We know you're extremely busy, so I just want to thank you for all of your time and help today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
And for our listeners across the country, if you are interested in speaking with Stephanie Heintzeler, you can either go online to www.thenewyorkdoula.com or call 917-399-2031 to schedule an appointment. And on behalf of our entire team, we want to thank you for listening, and we look forward to bringing you more top-quality content from our country's leading industry professionals.
You've been listening to RazorCast, USA's hottest podcast, bringing you cutting-edge interviews from leading industry professionals.